G'day, welcome back to another episode of TOGL. Well, as I wrapped up last week, I said I was going to show you some of the honey extraction and preserving those plums. As you can see behind, I've been pretty busy this last week as well, starting to get the remainder of the deck finished. Before I show you what's been going on there, let's have a look at the honey and the plums. I'll catch you back shortly, and I'll show you what my next part of this project behind me is. Alright, this is a honey spinner, centrifuge, honey extractor, whichever way you want to call it. They're very good friends of ours lent us so that we could extract the honey from all of the frames of honey that I've got in there. 8 frames I've got. Now the way that this works is there is a basket inside, and then when you turn this handle, that basket spins. So I need to get the honey frames out, decap them. I'll show you how that gets done. Put them in here 2 at a time. You spin the honey out, and then you can't quite see it off the camera there, but there's a tap there on the front, and that tap, you just crack that open and pour the honey out into your jars or bucket or whatever it is that you're going to collect it with. So let's get to the uncapping first. Alright, so these are all the frames. And we have this little tool. It's a decapping tool. It just enables you to scrape across the surface and just very gently pull all of the caps off like that. And you reveal all that beautiful honey. Now those bits there, I just need to scrape that off, because we will get more honey out of that obviously, just not through this extractor. So just get that off there, drop that down the side, get that bit off, there we go. Back this way. And we just want to rake all that off the top. Some people would be putting that into a separate container, but I'm pressed for space here. Now anywhere that I can see that I haven't quite got all the cap off, I'll just break those caps, because the bees don't build exactly straight. There we go. Okay, then I've just got to do the other side and then pop it over into the extractor. You can see where they haven't quite built nice and flat in there, so I'll need to rake all that off so that the honey can come out. And that little bit up there. And then this one can go into the extractor. Over we go. Pop it into there. Get the next one done. Okay, so we just pop them in there like that, pop the lid on so that no honey flies out. And then we turn this handle and the frames will start to spin. And you can see all the honey and the wax all flicking to the outside. So we'll flick to the outside of the barrel, well the inside, but it flicks out and then all runs down. Then we just collect it out of that tap at the bottom. So once they've all been spun, and I spun that for a good few minutes on either side, just to make sure I got as much of the honey out as I could. And now that frame is super light. All that honey's out, which is fantastic, and I can see in there that, yep, all the cells are nice and empty. All the honey has been flung out, and that's that one done. Big difference in weight, so that's really good. So easy to do too. So pop that back over there in my container and get the next 2 out, and I'll continue until I've got all 8 done. And then all that honey is all dripping down the bottom nicely. That'll all be collected up, and then I can start to jar it. Alright, so next up is these beautiful plums. Now you can do this with peaches, plums, nectarines, any of the stone fruits. Oh, you could probably do it with apple and pear and all sorts of things. Haven't done that yet. But all I want to do is take the seed out. So I'll just slice around the seed, give it a twist. There's juice going everywhere. These are so juicy. They're amazing. And then I cut one of the halves that's still got the seed into another half, which is essentially quarters, and squeeze the seed out like that. So I end up with 2 quarters and 1 half when I put them in. If I wanted to, I could always, just to make it neat, cut that other half in half as well. So I've just got 4 quarters and do them as quarters. It's entirely up to you. So we'll just cut that. These are so juicy and soft that it's taking quite a bit to get this seed out, which is a shame, because it means I'm mushing up the plum a little bit. That's where peaches and nectarines do work well, if you can get the ones where the seed comes away real well. Delicious. Alright, I guess the other way I could do it as well, to not destroy the fruit as much, is to actually just slice the cheek off like that. Then I end up with 2 nice pieces. Then I can just cut this little sliver off. It's all going to taste the same when it comes out. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and I'll get back to you when I've got all of the stones out. So now I've got this lovely bowl of sliced up plums, and I'm just sterilising the jars. For that you can just boil them in water for a couple of minutes. One thing you want to be very careful with tipping the water out if you're using tongs is that the boiling water doesn't flow back down the handle of the tongs. I've had that happen before. It's not fun. So that's sterilised. We will use that water very shortly too. You can buy proper preserving kits with big barrels with heat elements in the bottom for preserving. We do have one. It's probably packed away still. We'll get it out when we move into the new place, but for now this will work. So I've preserved those 2 at the front. I'll get those other 2 in to start. we go. Okay, so now all I got to do is pack the fruit into these jars. I want to pack it in fairly well. I don't want much of a gap, like any air gaps in there if I can help it. So I'll get them all in there. Push that down. Because what will happen is that fruit will go soft when we preserve it. And then we'll have a jar that's got like a quarter fruit and the rest will just be syrup. We want a bit more than that. So we pack them in there like that. Now if the fruit's a bit tart, you can always sweeten it with some honey or sugar or sultanas or something. You can experiment with different flavours and whatnot. Now, unfortunately I've got a bit of an air gap in the bottom of that first one, the way that it went in, but not so much in the second, which is good. And probably just pop that in there like that. Alright, so then what I want to do is just fill up all that air gap with water, and that'll turn into the syrup. Okay, now the way that we make these seal and become airtight so that they will last, get those air bubbles to the top, is that we need to boil these jars now. So that's where this will come back in. I'll take these jars out. And obviously with some of the bigger barrels you can fit 8, 10, 12 jars in. They have special lids and clips that go on, all sorts of things that you can do. But for my purposes, because I'm restricted, and just to show that you can do this with minimal equipment, you don't have to go out and buy all sorts of fancy stuff, I am just going to pop those two in there, like that. They're going to sit in there for about, I'll probably leave them about 45-50 minutes. I want to see all the bubbles inside. I want to see that that fluid is boiling inside. What that's going to do, because it's boiling under pressure, is it's going to sterilise the fruit and that I've just put in. You might say, well, why do I sterilise the jars? I think it's just something that's recommended to do that as well, just to be sure. And then when it cools, it's going to suck the lid down tight, and that's what's going to cause the air seal, and make sure that it can be preserved, and we'll be enjoying that 6 months, 12 months down the track. So I'll get the next lot packed and get them in there as well. Well, it was a long night last night getting all this stuff processed. The jars, I've taken them out, I let them cool down, so I've got these beautiful jars now of the plums, and you might be able to make out that that lid has actually sunk down. That means it's sealed. If I was to open that, it would go and click open. So that's preserved now, and looks wonderful. So I've got 4 jars there. I've got a lot more jars to do yet, but I can only do 4 at a time in that pot. All the honey's been extracted. I've got the frames up there, the empty frames, just letting the last little bits of honey drip off into the bottom of the tub, and I'll collect the last of the honey out of there as well. Now in here, this is full of honey to about there at the moment, so it's about that much in there. I've got a bucket, and I need to get that under, a nice clean new bucket that I just went and got. I'll pop that under there and we'll start to drain that out and we can filter it. And I'm just going to have a go at filtering it with some cheesecloth. And then from the bucket, we can then put it into jars. And so by filtering it with the cheesecloth, it just takes out the big lumps of wax and bits and pieces that have fallen off in there. A lot of the little micro particles and stuff, they stay in it, which is great. Little things like little bits of pollen and whatnot. It's all healthy stuff anyway. It's the best honey you can get. Unheat treated, unfiltered. It's gorgeous. So I'll get that bucket and we'll get started on draining this out. Little insight into getting some of the food, acquiring the food, preserving it, that sort of thing. So this is all things that we're leaning towards, you know, trying to be as self-sufficient as we can be. Not crazily like, but if we can do it ourselves, let's try and do it ourselves. Anyway, I have been pretty busy this last few days starting to get the roof up on the deck, and as such it's been very windy. And I just haven't bothered to do much filming. I've just been cracking on with it. But the next thing that I need to do, I'm at a point where I need to put a beam across the front of the house where you could see the tin coming down. So I've got to take all that tin off. I'm going to put a beam in, and that's what the roof beams will run up to. So I need a beam about 6.4 meters long. I could do it in pieces and screw it all across, but it'll have extra strength if it's actually one complete piece, and it doesn't need to be a huge piece. It probably only needs to be about 100 deep because it's going to get screwed on all across the front. What I've done is I've come down to where I was clearing that track a couple of months ago, and there's still a few of these old silver wattles that have been pushed over, and there's one here which I think will do the trick just nicely. This one just down here, it's quite skinny, but it's going to be sufficient. Once I shave off both sides, it will actually make me a nice beam that's light enough for me to manage, but still large enough and strong enough to support those beams when it goes across. So I'm just going to nick that off either end to get it at the 6.4, load it onto the tractor. We've got to cart it down to the mill just so I can shave the back and the top off. I'm not going to worry about the front and the bottom. I just want the back shaved so I can screw it on, and the top so that I can drop my beam onto it. So I'll get that started now. So at 6.4 meters long, that beam, this is how I'm going to carry it, because it's too wide to carry across the bucket. because there's parts up there where I'm going to hit trees on the left or the right. So I'll carry it lengthwise. It's just strapped in there, and it should be fine. We'll get it down to the mill. Well, that didn't work as well as I'd hoped to. When I took the side off it, it turned into a boomerang. And I think that will happen with every skinny branch I use, because there's just too much tension in them when you take one side off. And to go to a larger log and cut through, it just ends up making it too heavy a beam for me to lift up into place. So that's all right. What I'll do is, on the house there's actually 4 uprights. So like the 4, so all I gotta do is measure between each one, cut smaller pieces, screw them up. It'll do exactly the same job, and that won't ever be seen anyway, because it's the supporting beam in underneath the roof line, and it'll be covered by panels. So yeah, that log that I've got here, I'll just chuck it to the side, and then I'll use some better stuff to make just some 2x4s that are the required lengths that I need. So I'll need 3 of them. I'll go up and measure that now. I'll come back down and I'll get that cut. All right, first order is I need to get that tin off. That's all those panels just there. I've got to take them off so I can put that beam across the top. The beam that you can see just behind my head, that's the one that is on top of these front 4 posts. So these front 4 posts, they are 100 by 100 mil blackwood posts. Very nice. Got them put up. What I did was I put a metal stirrup, I screwed a metal stirrup down onto the deck, and then I'll put the post in, bolted it through, and then at the top it'll be secured by that beam. Now that top beam I'm rather proud of, because that was one log, 6.3 meters long, and we were able to actually shave top and bottom, and without it springing too much. It did spring up a little bit, but I was able to pull the end back down. My mate Neil came up and helped me put that on, and that was after my mate Mitch had been here helping me cut the thing, along with all of the beams, which I will put up next. So I've had a lot of help from a lot of friends, which is fantastic, and I really do appreciate that. So what I did was, you may have seen on one of the earlier videos, if you recall, I left on the top of each post, I left a knob that's basically 50mm high and 50mm by 50mm wide, so just like a cube. And then what I did was I measured all that up. On the top beam, I cut out the 50 by 50 by 50 holes along, and then we used the tractor to pick it up, bring it in. Neil guided it as I lowered it down, and wouldn't you know it, basically 3 of the 4 just dropped straight into place. And the only reason the last one didn't drop into place was because it bowed up a little. It ended up being about a 50 by 55 block I'd left on the end. I hadn't quite chiseled it down enough, so Neil chiseled it down, we pulled it down, we're able to screw it into place, and now it's dead level. Everything's really Mickey Mouse, so I'm very happy with the way this is going at the moment. What I've done over here on the corner, there is actually a 100 by 180 post. It's only half height. The reason I did it 100 by 180 was that the 180 matches the very corner post, which is 180 by 180. But what I did on the bottom was I actually cut back in 100 and down, so that when I put the post in the stirrup, there was a piece hanging down the front as well. And by screwing that in on the bottom of the deck, as well as having it screwed through, it gave it that strength it needed so that it didn't get pushed over if someone leant on it. Because what I'm going to do is put a gate in the corner there. There'll be another gate on the other side as well. So one gate will go out to the dog run, one gate will come out here to where we park the cars. So hopefully that's explained everything. I'll get up now and I will start taking this tin off. Now, in the future, I'd like to extend the deck to come around the side here and run right down the side. But as you can see, the roof that I've built over the top of the tiny home is much higher at the front than the back because it slopes down. Now, if I want my roof out the front there to slope down, but I want the highest point to be at the same height as that back corner up there, it means that I've only got to come up 365mm on the front. So it still gives me a good slope on the roof that I'm about to put on, the balcony roof. But have a look at where the 365 leads into. So that's at the height there that the beam needs to be, because, well, when I say the beam, but that crossbar needs to be at that height of the string, because the beam will sit up on top of that, and then that'll get me to the height that I require. What it means though is that I don't actually need a crossbar there in the middle, because I can use the one that's already existing. The string line runs almost directly on it, which is fantastic. So I've actually only got to put in a brace across here and over on the other side, and then all the beams can run from here up to there. So I've just clamped that beam there, checked it with the spirit level. So what I did was I marked along where the string line ran to get the lines, put the timber on, clamped it, double checked it with the spirit level. Then what I've done is I've marked the back, because I don't want that to be sitting on the front of those frames. I actually want it to sit in on the frames. So I've marked the back, I'll cut that and we'll put it in and I'll show you.
And that's how it looks now that it's cut and put into place. And that'll be a lot stronger now that it's on top of that angled beam rather than screwed to it. I'm actually going to put a little spacer right up the end there as well, just to give it that extra support. And then I'll just get the other side done. Right, well, I've got that one in just there, and as you can see, the other one is in over that side too. Also notice I've got the first beam across, but you'll have to wait until next week for that one. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Things are going along really well. It's a very exciting time at the moment. Next week, I'll show you about getting those beams up that run from the house out to the front support, and also going to go fishing as well. So make sure you tune in for that next week. Till then, stay safe, take care, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you guys next Friday. Cheers.